Bonjour, bonsoir, dear friends. Welcome to JCB Live. On this beautiful Monday, we've enjoyed the rain. California is blessed with many angels. We have one with us tonight. He's a doctor. He is a chemist. He's an entrepreneur. He's an innovator. He could do anything more than we can in terms of sensory. I had the pleasure to meet him before. I was mesmerized, impressed, and I rarely can say that I met someone who is a master in the sensory. So we're going to be tonight together. And dear friends, he's so special and unique and so talented that you'll be very impressed. In addition, he runs his own business where he does a lot of great seminars and very unique sessions. We'll do certainly some in the future. And he has one particular example in his life that he sees with his minds. He was born without the sight, and he was born with many other senses that we don't have. So I'm very excited to introduce you tonight, Dr. Hoby Wedler himself. And I'm going to do the usual sound because there he is. Woo!
John Charles, thank you so much. It's an absolute honor.
Well, all the honor is mine.
And you, by the way, you look really sharp today, by the way.
Hey, not as good as you because you have your bow tie on. And I wanted this to match with the sofa, which is red. But you look amazing. And listen to this sound.
What I do... Oh, you have a glass as well. God, I love it. Hold it to your ear and listen to the beats as they vibrate. The wah, 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 wah. And then, John Charles, there's more to bubbles than just what we might taste. Put your ear in the glass. Give it a swirl. Listen as they pop and crackle so elegantly. They're so small, but so powerful. And then you put the glass to your nose. Oh, and you just breathe in Carneros. You breathe in so much more than the wine itself. You breathe in the people who worked in the vineyards, the people of the winery. And you smell their artistry blended with a little bit of biochemistry that they have to know to do their jobs well. Oh, a little bit of really ripe stone fruit. Chrysanthemum. Do you love the smell of blooming chrysanthemum?
I love it.
And do you smell it right here?
And how would you describe it?
It's a smell that is a bit like lilac flower. It's a little bit more green, a little bit more like if you blended lilac and lupin. And then the other thing I smell here is the smell of the St. Helena area where we are in the Napa Valley on today's Monday, just after the heavy rains we got yesterday, when the sun starts to grace that wet ground and we get those hills that are ever so moist, but now drying out, and we call that petrichor.
A poet at the same time.
The smell, no, I don't know about that. The smell of wet pavement after a rain. May I taste?
You may, you may.
One of the most special attributes of bubbles for me is the texture, is the way that when you taste a champagne or a sparkling wine and you feel it on your palate, the bubbles erupt as it moves and create a biting, tingling, almost slightly painful sensation that we say hurts so good. But one thing we don't think about is how much sound is involved with that. Mm-hmm. You can hear bubbles bursting using your skull, much like the box of a guitar. Ooh. Right? Oh, and listen to it as you pour. It just sort of...
I went much faster because you speak so well about it. I kept going back to the well, to the glass. Mm. I love how you started this tasting with a sound. And this is absolutely brilliant because we never spend enough time listening to the dancing melody of the bubbles in the glass, don't we?
You know what else we don't spend enough time doing is listening to other people around us, to each other, and just embracing because everybody, if we think about it, has something wonderful to say. Well, most people. And we just have to allow, I can think of a few that maybe don't, but we just have to allow ourselves to think of, to embrace humans and what we say and what we talk about and how we live the lives that we live. And that's why I like to always start anything I taste with a sound.
Well, I love this way of living.
This is a beautiful glass, by the way. I love it. Tell me about this glass.
Well, crystal. So I'm going to come closer. First, I'm going to give you a little more bubbles because
thank you.
luckily
You know,
you
I'm-
like it as much as I do.
And you know what? I'm not driving.
Well, you could with all those new cars with
There you go.
where you could be on the back seats and
You're
they
going to give me your keys? No problem. I'll take your car for a spin.
anytime. I'll give them to you today. And I'm coming close. So what we did here, Doctor, is we use some of your skills of, I know you're very good in math and chemistry and geometry. We created a glass with divine proportion. As a lot of things we do, the perfect shape.
Yep.
So
You follow Mr. Fibonacci on that one.
always, we think Fibonacci from, you mentioned the ear, the corkluk in the
way it's
ear
shaped.
is a spiral.
Yes.
And with that very unique shape, same with our glass. So we want the sound to keep vibrating to a certain level of frequency. And this is why we've designed this glass with that thickness.
You know what's kind of amazing if we think about it is that if we were in a purely closed system, unencumbered by any outside variables, when we tap our glasses together, if this was like I say, a completely closed system, that kinetic energy of the collision literally should keep reverberating forever. But we have elements of the glass, molecular structure, all these sorts of things that eventually slow it. But I just love how these glasses are tough. They're sturdy.
Bravo! Well, on that note, when you taste, how and describe for us your process, as obviously you see in so many more different ways than someone that was born seeing. So would you be so kind, Doctor, to walk us through the process of you tasting, whether it's food, whether it's spices, whether it's wine, whatever it is?
You know, it's interesting, and I'll be a little ethereal here. I hope you're okay with that.
Please.
For me, everything that I visualize and imagine is in my mind. So whether I'm sitting here imagining this beautiful red velvet couch that I'm sitting on, and Jen sitting across from me, and others in the studio, I'm imagining these things in my mind. And verbal descriptions help with that for sure. But when I teach, which I love doing, I have the heart of a teacher, I think about my students sitting in rows in a classroom. But what I realized early on is that I could take the same skill set when tasting any food or any wine and use it to think about and better understand and visualize precisely what's happening in that system and in that environment. So when I was young, I have amazing parents who always had extremely high expectations of my brother and me. My brother's 2 years older and sighted, by the way. They never lowered the bar. They kept the expectations high. And my father started having me cook meals for him to take for lunch when I was about 8 years old. And my gift was a 42-liter soup pot when I was about 10 years old. And I would make large pots of soups for the family and freeze them. And a lot of people thought, oh, it's a game, Hobie's learning to test flavors and this sort of thing. But my parents knew, and I learned eventually, it was not a game at all. And these flavors were going into my mind and being memorized, much like you think of vocabulary words.
For sure.
So when I smell this wine, and I mentioned the starfruit aroma that I get here, which is really prominent, I'm thinking about the times that I've actually smelled the starfruit. So a lot of people say, you're crazy. You must not really know exactly what a starfruit smells like, or how can that be in the wine? I actually am relating these things to experiences that I've had in my life and tying them all together in a way that really makes sense. And it's a vocabulary. And then when I got to organic chemistry, I used the same way that I visualize life as a survivor, for my survival as a blind traveler, when I cross streets and think about how my town of Petaluma or the town of Davis, where I went to school, is laid out. There's no reason we can't take distances of meters and kilometers and shrink them into nanometers and angstroms and think about how atoms come together to form molecules. And what's really incredible about that is it all comes back to tasting. It doesn't matter how small or how large something is. If it's in my mind, it's being focused on and being paid attention to. And it's coming back to that visualization and that vocabulary.
And do you think you actually, as you smell, memorize it in such a way? And how do you do that you never forget it? Because I have a feeling you have an insane sensory bank of smell and sound specifically. Taste, I'm sure, but smell in particular.
Yeah, I would say that I just pay attention to things around me. Just like I pay attention to people and what they're saying, I pay attention to flavor and aroma and texture of foods that and beverages that I'm tasting. And it's not necessarily, I don't think, that I'm using my senses differently or more active. Like my sense of taste isn't better than yours. I think I'm required to use it more based on what I am and what I do and all these sorts of things, because I need to taste things and smell them and experience them for my job and frankly for my pleasure. And I think what it comes down to for me in terms of remembering aromas and cataloging them, it's just what I do when I memorize a route that I need to walk from one point to another. And it's like memorizing a molecular structure. It is essentially a spatial mindset. Mm-hmm. And I gave a TEDx talk a few years ago all about sensory literacy. And I actually concluded that talk by saying, being in tune with your senses is really like being in love. It's that sense of you just feel it. You just understand that factor of knowing what's right and knowing what is, like you love your partner.
Yeah, I love that
sense?
analogy. Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Not many other people would get that. So.
Oh, for sure. Tell us more about this tech talk as well, because I had the pleasure to see it. And all of you, dear friends, will see the link appearing shortly, because it's an amazing talk
you're kind.
That Dr. Wedler did. And give us more on that, true meaning of that discussion you've had.
In that talk, we really unpack sensory literacy in its truest form. And what do we mean when we talk about sensory literacy? Well, simply put, I think that we're all visually literate, right? So if I show you a red fence, first of all, you would know, you've seen enough fences in your surroundings, right? That you pretty much can tell that you're looking at a fence. Mm-hmm. It separates two bodies of land. But red is really peculiar. You see the color red. I tested this on my 4-year-old nephew just a few weeks ago. If I held a red pen up to his face and said, "What color is this?" Reed would say, "It's red." You would know that color, right? But so we know color and we know visual literacy from the time that we're very young children. And I think that's because eyesight is so sort of easy to use without making us vulnerable. Mm-hmm. But how often have we been out walking and we smell a particular scent on the air and we say, "Oh my gosh, I know what that is, but I can't quite place it," right? I can't quite give it a word, give it a reference, right? So for me, sensory literacy is about being able to take information in from all 5 of your senses, think it through in your mind, and make logical deductions and be able to really design with all 5 senses at the forefront of what we do and how we do it. And what I would say about that is that I think there's a hierarchy of senses in the way that we use them in order of increasing vulnerability. So eyesight, you can sit outside on your patio and look up at the moon. You don't have to be close enough to be vulnerable to the moon when you look right at it. Hearing, we have to be close enough to something to hear it, but we can still be far enough away. Now, if I'm touching this glass,
yep.
If this glass has any danger to me, I'm in it because I'm holding the glass in my hand. And then if I smell or taste the wine I am literally making that wine a part of me, the aroma or the flavor. And it all comes down to how we think about things in our mind and essentially how we process them. And the more vulnerable senses I think we use a little bit less. So I feel very excited to have been born without eyesight, so I get to use the 4 other vulnerable senses to obtain 100% of the information from my surroundings, which most sighted folks use their eyesight to obtain 85 to 90% of the information they take in. 85 to 90%, that means that we have 4 additional perfectly good senses, which we're only using to take in 10 to 15% of our surroundings.
So on that note, doctor, how do you recommend, let's say I see well, how to see better in all that superior ethereal sense that you just described? Let's go beyond, because I mean, it's like listening and hearing.
Right.
So because you have, as we're talking and as we've known each other, very deep sense of what things are and how they look like.
Sure.
Even though you've never had the sense of sight, as you were born without it. So, help us to see better.
Being really deeply involved with your senses like I am is something that takes a lot of practice, a lot of feeling things and relating them to situations around us. I've heard a lot about stalagmites in caves, and feeling your candle display downstairs, I was able to say, okay, that's probably what a stalagmite looks like.
Yes.
And I happen to be right. With aroma and flavor and texture, it's a lot of practice. Okay, what does tarragon smell like? What is it? And whenever I smell it again, I have to remind myself, okay, that's tarragon, that's lavender, that's beet, that's sage, whatever these things might be. That's old wood in a beautiful 1889 Victorian. That's the texture of velvet. And it's not something that comes easy to me, and that's why I use it in every day for my work, helping people better understand their products or services through a multisensory approach, is because it's something that I don't think can really be trained. I have a lot of blind friends who I think could be more in tune to this sort of realm of thinking about our senses as well. I have a lot that are very in tune to it, but I also have spent my life really digging in and understanding my senses around me. How do people get better? Just touch things. Take time to stop and think and appreciate. When I walk through space, now I'm a fast walker, but if I want to stop and really check something out, I can't just look at it out of the corner of my eye. I have to stop and feel it and smell it and listen to it. And that's such a richer experience. So very simply put, my answer is take time to slow down. Take a breath of air. Think about what we have in this world around us. And if you're driving to work and you're all stressed out about work, that stress isn't going anywhere unless you stop, open your window, take in the air of your surroundings, and just let your mind be in a place of relaxation for a minute. And you can do that anywhere. And that's what I've learned sort of the hard way, honestly, as a truly blind traveler. That's what I needed to do, to understand things. I had to slow down and really get deeper into them. And to me, it's a really wonderful thing when we can allow ourselves that opportunity to slow down. People are so into their social media. Well, I know you all are on Instagram watching this tonight, and I hold nothing against you for that. But really, social media is so high speed, and I think people are learning not to be able to listen to people in conversation. And really seeing in this world, to me, is being able to sit down and have a conversation and take the honest time to really understand what people are saying to you. And that's what I've learned in business works so well and has helped me immensely in my career, is just the opportunity to listen and understand and connect.
On that note, how do you elevate happiness through all your fantastic classes about sensing and senses and experiences?
So my brand is really Hobie's, and the line of product that I brought for you today,
Thank you.
which we can smell later, is Hobie's Essentials. And
Look
as you can
at
see, the
this.
tagline of that is elevating happiness. And what do I mean by elevating happiness? We all deserve to be truly happy individuals. And I think we can enhance the moments that matter in life by creating flavor and experience for people around us that help people. And this is where you and I have so much deep similarity. We bring people together, we connect people, and that's my passion, is to put together experiences or products like those that really help to elevate people's happiness. And I truly understand, as you do, I think, that we can be stressed out people, but if we prepare a great meal and pour a great wine or celebrate life with people we truly love, we can elevate that happiness. And for me, John Charles, entrepreneurship is not about power or money. So many people hear the word entrepreneurship and they think about, oh, this person must be rich and famous or that sort of thing. I'm lucky if I can put food on the table at the end of the month. I'm kind of kidding there, but really, entrepreneurship to me is about solving problems.
Yeah.
And as a blind guy living in a sighted world, we have to do things differently. And if I can use my way of solving problems to elevate the happiness of people around me, that's what I do. So
and how do you do this? So walk us through that process.
It's a great question. It's about understanding, number one, where something starts. Where are we currently, right? Mm-hmm. Let's say we're designing a product for someone. Where are we currently? What is the status quo? Maybe it's nothing at all, and we get to start from scratch. That's often the most fun. But let's say we have something, we understand it. We either feel it if it's non-food or drink, or if it's food and drink, we taste it, we smell it, we understand it. We get a great deal of exposure to it. And then we think about, okay, this is where we are now. And then we work with whoever the purveyor is of the product to talk about how can we, what are some major things that we think really have to change? What are some things that could change? What are some things that, maybe don't need to change but would be nice to have? And then we start to make those tweaks and the product gets better or the experience gets better. And the end consumer becomes happier about the overall experience they're engaging with. So they literally feel that their happiness has been elevated. And that, to me, is what I tried to do with these products. So my partner, Justin, and I created Hobie's Essentials in our kitchen. This is just the beginning. We have Happy Paprika and Rosemary Salt. The goal there was really that I was making these for friends and family and giving them away as Christmas gifts, and people were always asking me for the recipes, and I politely declined because I knew I wanted to do something with them at some point. And during the height of the pandemic, when I was being so incredibly careful because I did not want to lose my sense of smell or taste.
That's right.
We thought, what are we doing keeping these in our little ivory tower? Let's get these out in the world so that everybody can enjoy them. And there are blends of spices and flavors of the highest quality we could source that really do, when I use them in my cooking, they make me a happier person. They allow people to make a pork chop taste incredible, like it was cooked by a Michelin star chef, when you really just picked up the pork chop and cooked it on a Tuesday night after work. My goal with my work, however I do it, is to turn a Tuesday night, which others might think of as just kind of a crummy work night, into a celebration. Mm-hmm. And we do that all the time through experiences, where usually we will blindfold people and have them taste food and beverage. And we always start these experiences, my friend, with a discussion of what it's like to not be able to see, how art can absolutely be enjoyed without eyesight. There's so many art forms that we do not need to see. And finally, we take it to really understanding that we don't need to see to enjoy life. But I very carefully do not use the blindfold as a gimmick. I do not want anyone in my programs to get up and spill food on themselves and say, oh, now you know what it's like to be blind. That would be gross. That'd be outlandish. Mm-hmm. I want to provide people a space where when they put on the blindfold, all that's doing is temporarily removing their eyesight so they're not distracted by it. If you can imagine how distracting your eyesight is, whether you're looking over at something on the wall in front of you, or someone made a funny face at you and you look over, or you see a beautiful car drive up, or a beautiful bird fly outside the window. These things are distracting.
For sure.
They take your attention away. And when we take that sense away from someone temporarily who's had it for their whole lives, we are quite literally improving their ability to take in life. And we have had people leave just crying, just saying, I never knew what my mind could do, how I could focus, how I could see joy in ways that I didn't see it before.
And I love this experience, Doctor, and I think what you're just describing is so essential, not only in wine tasting, but anything, fragrance making, candles as we have it.
Think about an experience, an event. We need to create an event that makes people think, that makes them say, wow, that was different. If I do something that's in this, I don't want this to sound conceited at all, but if I do something that's ordinary or forgettable, I'm just going to be forgotten, and that will not elevate happiness and elevate positivity. The other thing that I try to do with my work, and how do I do it? Well, I do it through product and experience. I try to get people in the right mindset to think and be successful and let their wonderful spirits grow their creative thinking and their ideas. So I have these spices that are out now, Hobie's Essentials. We are soon going to be coming out with a line of vodka and gin.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we are. And my dream, my friend, in the next 3 to 5 years is to start my own premium wine label, all about elevating happiness one sip at a time.
For sure. And I love elevating happiness. What a great expression.
And you do that in your work as well, don't you?
Well, we love it. And
I don't know if I get to ask you questions about your work, but I might want to just ask you one if you're okay with it.
of course.
How did you get so involved with the senses? How does someone go from where you are now to being JCB, or, from where you started as a kid to being JCB, a fellow master of the senses and master of the world around you in terms of...
You're very kind, Doctor.
In the world of
Master of my own
experience.
little thing. I'm not even the master of my own self. So can you imagine? Well, it's exactly the same process as yours. And I was very fortunate to be born with my nose being put everywhere. So my mother used to say, Jean-Charles, you were raised with that dog, which was right there when I was born, who was smelling everything. And as a reflex, I started to smell everything since birth.
Wow.
And there's not one thing you cannot get me that I don't smell.
Yes.
So it's interesting, as you do so well, and your sense of hearing and smell and taste for you is so acute that as you compensate most likely for your eyesight,
Yes.
you overly develop the others, right?
Correct.
And for me, frankly, often in wine tasting, the eyesight is not important at all. It's really the nose, which is 70%, and maybe the taste 20, and maybe the sound 5 now.
Exactly. Now, do you ever try plugging your nose while you're tasting wine? It tastes terrible. Your nose is everything. When you breathe in, orthonasal, you smell the room that we're in. You exhale, retronasal, you taste the wine on your palate.
That's right, the retroflexion. So let's finish our glass. Doctor, would you mind finishing your glass? You still have a little bit in it.
Apologies if I was holding you up.
Well, you not, but I want to make sure you keep drinking those beautiful bubbles you described so well. Because now we're going to have you describe another wine. And there's an exercise, Doctor, I've never shared with you, that I'm going to tell you that I do as a family.
Oh, wow.
We've been doing it. My cousin is a doctor. My other cousin is an engineer.
Wow.
They have nothing to do with wine. You know what I do?
What do you do?
3 glasses of wine in an opaque glass.
Yes.
One is water, Evian water, very managed pH.
Of course.
One is a rosé from the
love
south
it.
of France.
Yep.
Actually, 4 glasses. One is a Chardonnay with no oak,
Okay.
and one is a Pinot Noir, no oak.
Love it.
And I tell them
And one is a Gosé.
the rosé is a south of France Grenache.
Yes. All in stainless.
Yeah, so they cannot see the color. And I say, you're not allowed to, we blindfold them.
Wow.
And we say, what color is the wine? Is it red? Is it white?
This is
it
exactly
rosé?
what I do in my experience.
Well, and I could tell you, 8 times out of 10, we're wrong.
And you'd be surprised the number of wine professionals, masters of wine buyers I've worked with, who, when I serve a Chardonnay after a Pinot, do not know that it's a white.
That's it! So now, I'm putting you through the test.
Oh my gosh.
What are we having?
What I didn't tell you is that I could see it. No, I'm kidding.
Well, you see through your mind. And the beauty is, and dear friends, Doctor and I were outside in the garden here in Napa Valley, and I had a feeling you could absolutely see. You have such a great sense of space. It's amazing because we were walking and side by side, you could feel me next to you as I was going. You didn't need anything to walk around. You exactly knew where you were. Sure. So you have an amazing sense of space.
Well, and that's just I am a blind spatial person. And to be
Yeah.
a chemist, you have to be spatial. And I think to be a flavor guy like you and me, you have to be spatial.
As you think of the wine, describe to us, how was it as a child? Now you're a mature, experienced man, you're a doctor, you've proven so much of all your talents. But how did you go through at first, and with such demanding parents as well? And
They're demanding in the best possible way.
Great. But how did you, and how do you recommend for all of us to live our life when we have, obviously, something that maybe others don't have, and vice versa?
Wow, that's a really good question, and I've got an answer that's quite complex for this one. For me, it's all about mindset. It's all about how you think about things. When you get up in the morning and you smell smoke outside, if you were living in Napa in 2017 in October, you're probably going to get scared. When really it's just the wood-burning stove, burning a fire on Thanksgiving morning, right? It's all about our frame of mind. It's all about how we experience things. And I would say that if I allowed myself to be negative and to be a negative thinker and have negative energy, there's no way I would be successful. I need to maintain a positive outlook on life, a positive understanding of what I can do and how I do it. And I actually have 5 mindsets that I wrote an article about that I live by.
Okay.
Number 1, don't compare yourself to other people. I made that mistake early on. Actually, as an undergraduate student, I compared myself to a couple of people in an organic chemistry course who were doing I was studying very hard, and they seemed like they were studying less hard. They always did just a little better than me, just a point or two better than me on tests. And I would compare myself to them and think, why am I not as good as them? And it got into this complex, and I would say, what am I doing here? And eventually I realized all I'm doing here is making myself a worse person. So if we compare ourselves to others and we think we're worse than other people, we're going to feel dejected and depressed. But if we compare ourselves and always think we're better, we're going to be cocky and arrogant. And who wants to be arrogant, right? Next mindset is...
That's a great rule. Forgive me to interrupt.
No, it's a good...
live the life as well. And forgive me for interrupting, but I have a question for you. Mm-hmm. Do you think, and it's an existential question, we born the way we are and our life is meant to be as it is? Yes, we can improve it. Yes, we can make it slightly different. But do you think we born with a path already defined?
I am a very spiritual person. I wouldn't say I'm religious. I wasn't raised under any particular religion. I believe that when we die, we don't disappear.
Yes.
There's energy that goes somewhere.
Great.
And I believe that energy is reborn. And I do believe there are things from our past that exist within us that are from our past. But I don't think someone's destiny, and I don't want to be controversial here, so I want to be careful. But I think our destiny is both laid out for us in a way,
yes,
but we choose how we care to approach it. And we get to choose how we do it. There's so many people who feel jealousy. It's like, oh, I wish I was her. I wish I was him. Stop wishing and just be the best person you can possibly be. Because that's truthfully the only person that matters. Is when you get up in the morning and you look in the mirror. Was that person's fate meant to be? I don't know. But are we proud to know that person? That's what we should be. We should always be able to say we're proud to know that person. Now, when I look in the mirror, I don't see much of anything. But That's a joke
Maybe you
for
see a lot more than we see.
Well, I reflect on who I am every morning and every night. And the only person, my parents told us this, my brother and I this at a very young age, the only person you need to impress is the person standing in front of you in the mirror. And boy, that's how I feel about business. That's how I feel about so much. I've been jealous before. Jealousy gets you nowhere.
That's right.
So you got to believe in yourself, right? That's the next thing. Believe you can do whatever you want to do. Mm-hmm. Start small. Take things and break them down into small pieces. When I thought about getting my PhD on the first day of graduate school, it was daunting. I was having a hard time sleeping, so I had to drink a lot of wine. You know how that works? And then I finally got some sleep and realized the next morning, I just need to deal with this how I've dealt with everything else in my life. Break it down into small pieces, bite-sized pieces, and make one big challenge a bunch of little challenges. You couldn't climb a mountain in one step. You couldn't swim across the Atlantic Ocean in one stroke. Break it down. We have to be consistent.
Great advice.
Right? Consistency is so important. And if you're going to be consistent with something, find something you like that you do for a profession, that you do for pleasure. If you're not liking something, it's really hard to do it consistently. And the final sort of thought that I have here, just on what advice do I have for people, is don't be afraid to fail. And our mistakes that we make are the most important things because we can learn from those mistakes every step of the way. Life is touch and go. It's about making mistakes. And you know what? If you can laugh about the mistakes you make now, Jean-Charles, you should laugh. If you can laugh about them 6 months from now, we should all laugh about them now and just enjoy the heck out of what we do.
I agree. And I love to laugh about myself.
I do too.
That's the most fun.
I do too.
Now, thank you for those great 5 steps. It's profound. And I hope everybody took notes because this is really, what it's all about. And I want to go back to energy. You have incredible energy. You passed the door or the gate of Raymond, and I felt you coming. So I was waiting for you in my car. As you saw, I just had arrived, and I said, this is him. I feel him. Wow. How did you succeed? And as we met the first time, I felt that same energy. Do you
work it's funny, when we met the first time, it was through a phone line.
Yes, that's right.
And I felt the same energy from you.
Thank you. Now, how do you work on energy? Is it something you catalyze? Is it something you work on vibration and frequency? What's your technique?
I understand energy to be just a vibration of atoms and molecules. And bonds vibrate one by one. Every bond is just a spring. And I like thinking about those chemical bonds because the nature of a chemical bond is just the same as the nature of the bond that you and I have, right?
Yeah.
It's that same nature. So to me, energy is something that I don't think about much, but it just is out there. I believe that we absorb energy through our minds and through our third eye. And if there's negative energy around, I can feel it. And I try to get away soon. But if there's positive energy, I try to suck it up, and not greedily, but I try to partake in that energy and be connected with it in any way I can. I just, how I work on energy? I just try to be the best person I can be and the nicest person I can be. And also the most, what do I want to be? I want to be the most understanding person, but also the most willing to speak my mind if it needs to be spoken. And that gives me the mindset that I need. Thank you for saying I have good energy. I thank
feel
you.
it.
I appreciate that.
And I love it. I love your energy, and I receive it. And hopefully you feel mine that I send
I
back.
feel exactly yours. And what's funny about business to me, and a lot of people are going to laugh at me, but I use energy to judge business relationships more than anything else. Of course, I want to see, credentials, if I'm going to partner with someone, or what have they done, this sort of thing. Or if I'm working with an investor. But I believe in people more than anything because of the way that I feel them. I can tell when someone's a good person. And I don't necessarily have to see them. You can hear it.
That's it.
You can feel it. And it's a sense that I can't really describe. It's a sense of just understanding who and what someone is or something is. Animals have energy. Landscapes have energy. Wildernesses have energy. And the energy shifts as we go through life, but as long as we can always come back to sort of a grounded point, I think that's where I feel is the most powerful spot with energy. One thing that's funny for me is how color is tied into energy. So I'm a chemist, so color to me is any visible light between 400 nanometers of wavelength and 700 nanometers of wavelength, and that's it.
That's right.
That's color. And I know green is, about 560 nanometers. That's how I know it. And I know it's kind of a wilderness, natural, floral color, the color of spring, the color of fertility, because people have told me that. Red is 700 nanometers. It's near the infrared or the temperature spectrum. So red is warm. Blue is 700, and it's up in the ultraviolet, near the ultraviolet spectrum, so it's cool. Right? That's how I imagine color. And energy sort of vibrates me at the same way.
Brilliantly said. So you've got an enormous amount of awards, Doctor. Tell us about it. Wine Enthusiast, Forbes magazine, and obviously many others which have been...
I don't like talking about myself.
Well, no, but explain how it makes you feel, because you were raised in an environment where your parents were demanding. You were very demanding on yourself.
Yeah.
You really made incredible success in all the things
you.
you've touched. So tell us about that and how it makes you feel, though.
It's a really... It's humbling and an honor to see people recognize work that's done, and some of them I feel like, was I really deserving of this? I never really know, but they're a huge honor. I'll tell you about one opportunity in particular. Was standing in. I was awarded a Champion of Change for enhancing education and employment opportunities by President Obama, and it was I was standing in the executive building right by Joe Biden's office in 2012. And I was asked to walk up to the lectern and speak. And I had no idea, I didn't know how it would feel. And I kind of didn't put two and two together that I was in a building right next to the White House until I was on that lectern and began to speak and said, holy shit, I'm next to the White House. It was this crazy experience where it's just like, do I deserve to be here? And it was just an honor. And then getting to walk out, I've got a great story here, getting to walk through the White House the next day, and stand in the East Room, and there was a helicopter out on the lawn, and one of the Secret Servicemen standing next to me said, "Hey, Obama's right there in front of you. He's just walking out to his helicopter." So I put my thumb up in the window, and then he looked right back and gave me 2 thumbs up. So we didn't meet, but we came close to meeting, and that was such an exciting experience to have described to me.
For sure.
And then Forbes, that was a huge honor in 2016 to get the 30 under 30 in food and beverage. And what it told me more than anything...
That's a huge deal. 30 under 30 Forbes magazine.
Thank
wow.
you. No, thank you. It's just, it felt like I had a little bit of credibility that, when I did eventually come out with my own products and work with people as a sensory design, food product development consultant, I maybe had a good idea of what I was saying, and my palate was decent. And the same thing came around just this year with the Wine Enthusiast 40 under 40. It was like, okay, maybe people understand what I can do here. Maybe people can understand that this is possible. And these, all of my products, the ones that you see here, as well as the ones that are coming very soon in the future, are all designed with that elevating happiness in mind, but that sensory expertise. And you know what? Most of all, I put love into my products. Every one of them. I do what I do because I have a sense of love for what I do.
For sure.
And love is one of these amazing emotions that I think you and I have a pretty profound sense of and feeling for. And I get that based on the way that you design your spaces and the way that you have just sort of a very romantic sense about you and about the work that you do. I think we share that, that's when you are truly in love. And I know this is a bit ethereal. That's when you really know. That's when you really can just feel it in your body, in your being. And that's how sensing the world around me feels. That's
beautifully said. On that note, you said you had a feeling in that award to be understood as you develop those great products. As I'm going to serve you more wine because we need more wine, don't we? Our conversation is not over. It's so fantastic. I mean, it could last for 5 hours. Maybe another few minutes, dear friend. Stay with us. Cheers to you. Did you ever feel misunderstood?
You know, as a blind person living in a sighted world, I think and I don't like to use the word compete because I don't like to compete, but to be recognized, you have to work harder and be even better than folks around you. And when I say better, I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
I don't want to use that word really because it could have many meanings to it. I felt like people don't really understand what I can really do, the possibilities within me, because they see the person with the cane first. And they see the person where they're like, oh, isn't this special that he's even out walking around? And it's like, no, I've started 4 companies. I've got a degree in chemistry, and I care so deeply about the work that I do. And it's hard to explain that. So sometimes, things like these awards, and frankly, earning my PhD was a really good way to show people that, hey, this, he can do things. He can think, and that's a really important thing. And I wonder for you the same question. Before you had the properties that you have and the business, that you have, did you ever feel misunderstood?
Oh, for sure.
Like, do people really know? Yeah.
I feel misunderstood 50% of the time.
Yeah.
That's why I like a variety of songs. Oh, what's happening, or so am I. Yeah. I've, the world is full of judgment and preconceived ideas. Mm-hmm. And when you French, so there's always a preconceived ideas. 2, cultures are very different from around the world. And I really feel that on many levels, I've been misunderstood, and I'm consistently and constantly misunderstood. Yeah. Am I fine with it? Entirely.
And that's how I feel too.
Exactly. And you said it earlier in your point number 1, be yourself. Yeah. And I felt very early on, there's no role to act here. It's not, even though life is a theater, be who you are and accept who you are and go for who you are, as you've done. And you're the prime example of that.
I not to use a movie reference, but I was flying back from a bunch of work that I had in Italy just a few days ago, and the feeling of having nothing to do on the airplane. Yeah. So I watched the movie A Star Is Born. I don't know if you've seen that from 2018.
Love this movie.
It's a great movie, but what you see in Allie, the main character there, is when her true stardom is shown. It's her ability to connect and sing and write songs and be herself. But when they put her on a stage and try to doll her up and make her something she's not, she ends up hating it. And it's just like, I saw that movie, and as I was tearing up at the end of it, I thought that's what life is all about. It's about being our truest and most honest and caring selves, and nothing more than that. So if there's one bit of advice I have for any of you dear listeners and wonderful listeners today, just understand who you are, and you, dear friends, try to be the best people you can possibly be. And I can't promise anything to you for sure about what's going to happen in the future, but what I can promise you is that I will always do my best for you and for me and for everyone out there. And that's all you and I can do. And sometimes when we're misunderstood, we just have to laugh about it.
Well, you do a lot of things yourself for others as well. Your nonprofit in Napa. Yeah. As an example.
Boy, I started my own nonprofit, Accessible Science, which is now on hiatus because I frankly got out of graduate school and had to run my other businesses, but that held chemistry camps. The nonprofit that we did the chemistry camps at was called Enchanted Hills Camp in Napa. And I want to talk to you more about that camp because it's run by the Lighthouse for the Blind, and you and I should do a show with their CEO and talk about the amazing programs they offer to blind folks around the world, and how it's just right in our backyard and so incredibly important.
Let's do it. Yeah. I'm all in, as you know, and as much as we can help, assist, and light, and hopefully show the way to anyone and inspire them, which is really what is the most exciting thing in life, is to inspire others.
It's to inspire. I want to smell one of the products with you on camera, if that's okay.
Of course.
Are they?
Which one would you like? The rosemary?
Let's start with the rosemary. I'm going to open this up for you.
Absolutely. And I'll open the paprika too.
Okay. What I'm excited for you to smell is that pure bliss of rosemary. I'm just going to set this down here on the table.
Yeah, that's great.
Thank you, sir.
Go. Ooh la la!
Ooh la la.
Dear friends, we are full of spice and aroma.
And love.
Exactly, and elevated happiness.
Elevating happiness. Take a whiff.
Woo!
Isn't that fun? Rosemary, salt, lemon. And the lemon is a secret ingredient there. It really is, because it increases the saltiness without it being so salty.
Wow. Experience flavors that enhance the moments that matter. I love it.
Hobie's
And what about
Essentials.
Paprika now. Here we go.
That one's really fun. Okay, let me open this for you.
I've opened it pretty much, yeah. Not as well as you, but can you smell it on the side?
Woo! Oh, I love that smell.
This is
cumin and paprika and pepper, and it's just, it's fun.
wow.
And I designed these in my kitchen years ago, and just during the pandemic, like I said, decided it's time that the public, everybody around me, gets to experience this passion.
I love it. Exclusive, innovative, passion leads to happiness. This is your beautiful saying here. I love it.
That is. And
great equation.
Whenever I do a wine brand, which is in my very near future, it's going to be all about elevating happiness. So I want people in life to be happy through food, through drink, and through any experience that we can bring.
And the sense is attached.
The sense is attached, fragrances, the feel of the velvet below our hand.
And the sound that you so well described with the bubbles.
I do have to tell you, this is a red wine.
Yeah, baby.
Now, it's not a super dark red.
Not necessarily.
Let me ask you a question. Is this a California wine?
Yes, sir. He guessed it all.
Coming from the Napa Valley?
Yes, sir.
Is it a Cabernet blend?
Yes, sir.
Woohoo! Which wine is this?
And he doesn't know it. I did not say anything,
You
dear
did not.
friends.
I'm going to guess the year.
Yes.
I got to taste it.
And yes, this is a Cabernet blend from Napa Valley. Absolutely.
2017?
Mm-hmm. You nailed it all along.
Let's see about the alcohol here.
And this is Tarot. So we selected a wine for you. Well, the alcohol is around 14.2.
Yeah.
And we selected a wine which is Tarot, the Tarot cards. And this card today is the moon.
Wow.
You described the moon, the sun earlier. And this is the moon, which, do you do tarot cards?
I don't, but I understand them and I love them and respect them. So I get this and I love it.
Thank you.
You know, I think you and I need to have some fun together, cook a meal together. I can't wait to do more with you. It'll be fun.
Me too.
And anyone, I want to just tell you.
That's right. Big message, Doctor.
Never, ever hold back from being your most happy, truest self. You don't need to feel depressed, jealous, held back anymore, because the only thing that holds us back is ourselves. Eat, drink, be happy, enjoy the flavors of life that you experience as often as you can. And most importantly, have a hugely abundant mindset. And to that end, there is nobody in this world I don't want to have a conversation with. So I'm going to open myself up here and ask you to please reach out to me on social media. I'm at Hoby Wedler, HOBY WEDLER on all the platforms. And I'm also at Hoby Wedler or Hobie'sEssentials.com. So reach out, don't be strangers. I want to talk to you and get to know you and build and break bread with you, because my life will be richer because of you.
I'm reaching out, dear friends.
And I want your lives to be richer as well.
Well, thanks to you today, not only it is, but it will be even more in the future when we start to do some exciting things together. So, Dr. Hobie, thank you for coming back, I should say, because we've met before. But it's going to be very exciting, don't you think, dear friends, to have Dr. Hobie again. So, again, very enriching experience. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for being and accepting to be vulnerable in many things you've said, giving us so many great advice and life experiences. And I want to say congratulations for living the life you live and how you live it and how phenomenal you are.
And I want to say that thank you, first of all, but what blends you and I so deeply is our love for being ourselves.
To this.
Jean Charles, cheers.
Doctor, yes!
Woohoo! Jean Charles.